Okay, friends, so we've done our backgrounds and our fish, our koi fish. We're now going to glue them all together. You're going to get your koi fish back. As I'm handing those back, we're going to work on the lily pads that we will put in our projects. You're going to get a green piece of paper that looks like this, and the first thing you need to do is rub it with a yellow crayon. The more pressure you have, the more of that yellow that's going to come out. That's going to add some different areas of brightness into our lily pad. Okay, so now that I've gone and done that, I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to draw on my paper 2 lily pads. Now I'm going to use a Sharpie so you can see, but please use a pencil on yours. How this is going to work is you're going to start with, and I want to come a little bit away from the corner, maybe near the middle. You're going to do a V. Okay, or almost like a triangle that doesn't close at the bottom. I'm going to do a curve that comes all the way around and then meets back to the other side. So I'm going to do a curve that comes around and then meets back at that end. And there's my first lily pad. I'm going to go in. I'm going to do a second one. They don't have to be the same size. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is, as Miss Plummer's passing out the fish to you, you are going to go ahead and cut both those lily pads out of your paper. Alright friends, I have both my lily pads cut out. When we go to glue them, you're going to glue the yellow side showing where we went over with a little yellow crayon. We're going to go back to the fish now, and what I would like you to do is we're going to get a Sharpie. I only have one fish for my example, but you're going to do both steps to both your fish, okay? So I'm gonna go through and I'm just gonna outline my fish first. Now it looks like I just realized my fish on this paper is missing its side fins, so I'm just gonna draw mine, but you should already have yours on there. So I'm just gonna do my best, and I'm gonna go through and just follow the line and trace around my fish. See on mine. Okay. Alright, so now that I have that done, I'm going to trace the lines for my eyes. Perfect. And we are going to go in and do just like a little fin in the middle. So what you're going to do is a curve right in the middle, and then another curve like this, and then some diagonal lines. I'm going to also have you go in and define those lines in your fins a little bit more to create some more movement. So where we drew some curvy lines for crayons, we're also going to do curvy lines in your fins. Not your scales, just your fins and your tail with a Sharpie. Now the little part of the little curve for your eye in the middle, you're going to go in with that Sharpie and you're going to just color it in very gently. And then I want to lighten this part up. So I have a special tool because we can't use crayon, doesn't really show up on watercolor well, but there is a material that works really well on paint, and that is an oil pastel. The challenge with an oil pastel is it smears really easily, so you have to be very careful not to touch where you have the oil pastel. So I'm just going to go on the outer part of the eyes now. And lighten that area up. Perfect. So you should have 2 fish to do this too. Now what I like to do, because we're going to have to cut these fish out, is I like to separate the fish first. So if I had another fish on this end, I would separate them. So that way when I'm cutting this guy out, I don't have a big fish flopping around. So I'm going to go around. And I'm going to be very careful, especially around my fins. If you need to cut a little bit away from the line, that's kind of my trick. I don't cut right on the line. I cut a little away from it, because if I have to go back in and trim things later, it's a lot easier to do it after I have him cut out of most of the paper. So notice how I'm rotating with my other hand as I'm cutting with my cutting hand. Perfect. So you should have 2. I only have 1. You're going to take these now, take this, and you're going to take your background. You're going to want to make sure that you rub all the salt off of it. And we're going to figure out where we want our fish. So, you know, if you drew your fish pretty big, you're going to want to put them in opposite corners. It is okay if they overlap each other a little bit. So that's when one shape goes on top of another. I only have 1 guy, so I'm just going to place him in the middle. And then I need to figure out, where am I going to want to put my lily pads. Okay, do I want them to overlap part of my fish? Do I want it to go on top of my fish? So see if I do that, it overlaps a little bit. It looks like the lily pad is above the fish. Maybe I will do that with this one. And then maybe this I'll put over here. So I try to think about the space. I don't want to put all my lily pads on one side because then it's going to drag my eye just to one corner. I don't want my eye to move around. So it's a little tricky with gluing these. You're going to have to be really quick and get a lot of glue. You're going to grab your glue stick, and we're first going to just glue our fish. We're going to get him really good, see how quick I'm being, and then I'm going to flip him over, think about where I had him, and then I'm going to rub, and I'm going to press and rub for like a good couple seconds, but be very careful like I just did. Don't rub on top of that oil pastel because then you're going to smear it. Perfect. So if you have an area that's popping out like right here, you can just sneak a little bit under there. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and add my lily pads. So I'm going to do this guy. Maybe I want him up here. And remember, we want the yellow side showing. And then maybe this guy, I'll have him overlapping a little bit with him. So we're going to go in and we're going to make some flowers on top of our lily pads. You're going to start with any color you want. Just rip a little bit from some tissue paper. And I would do about that size. And you're going to actually crinkle it up. And you're going to add, you know, the tighter you crinkle it, the smaller it's going to be. You don't want, you know, the outside to be really, really small. So then you're going to go in and you're going to add glue to the lily pad, not to this. Some of this is bleeding tissue paper, so it might get your hands dirty if you get the glue on there. So I'm going to press that. Perfect. And then I like to make a little center for it too, and I usually use a little yellow. So I just get a little bit of the yellow. And if I crinkle it a little bit tighter, you're going to get a tiny little piece. Again, I'm just going to add a little glue to that and then press it in there. If you think it's easier to glue the tissue paper instead, especially for that smaller piece, that's fine. Your two flowers do not have to be the same color. As you can see in mine, I did red and pink. It is completely up to you. I'm going to do this lily pad and then I'll be done. Good job, friends.